to turn it on. Good evening. Welcome to the school board meeting, the last one in January. I appreciate you meeting with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We are down 2 board members tonight, and wish both of our folks speedy recoveries, and we will see them as soon as reasonably possible. We'll go on to item C2, report of actions taken in closed session. There were no actions in closed session. However, we do have 3 suspension and expulsion cases, all by stipulation. I hear a motion on items 17, 18, 08, 09, and 10.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh? Aye. Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Fong? Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Motion carries. Statements of abstentions. Are there any statements of abstentions for tonight?
I'm abstaining, I believe, from F6.
Okay. That's the textbook. Any
Textbooks.
other abstentions? All right, we'll move to item C. 5, adjustments to the agenda. I'm going to be pulling items E5, E6 because we have public comments with respect to those, and E7 because I have a question. Are there any other adjustments to the agenda? Seeing none, that's what we will do. If the person making that motion will note that E5, 6, and 7 won't be in the omnibus. There you go. Thank you. That motion. Thank you. Next, we'll work to C6, board member requests for information. Any board member have any requests for information? And I promise within about 10 minutes I will draw back from my many years of doing this, and it'll be a lot smoother. Item C7, which is approval for board minutes of the regular meeting that was held January 10th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Did you get that? Moved by Director Pugh, second by Director Fong. Sorry, I didn't do that on the last one. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Fong? Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Abstain. Item C8, this is a cool one. We got a special presentation related to the Carlson Family Foundation Outstanding Teacher Award, and I assume Brian is here as I see him. There we are. Welcome.
I'd like to introduce Tim Allen, the Executive Director for the Carlson Family Foundation, to present this wonderful award to Brian Deller, a teacher at Elsie Allen High School.
Well, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here tonight. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about the foundation to let you know really how important I think this award is. The Carlson Family Foundation began as part of Broderbund Software back in the early 90s. It was one of the first companies that had educational games, and if you remember Where in the World Are You, Carmen Sandiego? That was one of the first games that they started. And when they started the company, they also opened a 501c3 and funded it with profits from their company, and they encouraged the employees to go out and work in the Bay Area for various organizations, and then they could come back and get grants for that charity of choice. In the late 90s, the company went through a hostile takeover. They sold the company, and they had this endowment that they had to decide what they wanted to do with. So they decided that they wanted to, first of all, help teachers in high schools. And furthermore, they decided that they wanted to help teachers in high schools with high needs, with few resources. And they said they wanted to make this award different from other Teacher of the Year awards. So they said, in order for a teacher to be considered for this award, they must first be nominated by a former student. And that former student had to either be enrolled in a four-year university or graduated from a four-year university. So for the last 15 years, we get probably about 100 nominations every year. Wow. And so the first thing to do is to vet these teachers. And so when a nomination comes in, my job is to find 6 or 7 other students, former students, who span the career of that teacher. We go through intensive interviews, probably an hour with each of those kids. I interview the principal. I interview at least 2 colleagues before I ever get to the teacher. And then I spend an extensive amount of time with the teacher. Once I've done that, I schedule a time to come out and watch them teach. And then I give the board between 10 and 12 candidates every year for them to select. They select 5 out of that, and each of those 5 gets a total of $20,000. $15,000 of it is for their own personal use, and $5,000 is for their school as a grant, which I'm here to present tonight. But before I do, I literally interview well over 300 to 400 students every year about what effective teaching is. And essentially every year I have a new textbook, a textbook of what are the characteristics of these people? What is it that motivates these kids? What is it that inspires them? What is it that takes them from never even thinking about having the ability to go to college, let alone the finances to go to college? So most of the kids I speak with are first-generation college students. Many are first-generation high school graduates. But I would like to share with you just a few words of what some of the kids said about Brian. Mr. Deller could take any topic that was totally new to us and never heard of and break it down so it is easily understood. He challenged all of us. He could read students, and whether we were getting the main point of what he was teaching or if we were not, he would change the pace of the activities. Brian Deller was an inspiration from the first day I stepped into his class. He was one of the very few mentors and role models I ever had while I was growing up. Mr. Deller's enthusiasm for science awoke a similar genuine appreciation for the sciences that ultimately motivated me to pursue a degree in engineering. Today I am a thermal engineer working in the Silicon Valley, and I still find myself with the same enthusiasm and skills that Deller passed on to all of us. Another student says, I was never naturally talented at anything. I didn't really care much about school. I didn't really care much about my parents' dreams for me. When I did the schoolwork, it was pretty sloppy, but I managed to always pull off a C or better in all of my high school classes. Mr. Deller was the first teacher who believed in me and who pushed me in spite of the fact that I had no real motivation or interest in science. He never got upset or yelled at his students. He was the funniest teacher I can remember, and he definitely made the material he was teaching very entertaining. And during my freshman year, all I really cared about was messing around and having fun. My schoolwork came to second to everything. I remember doing assignments the quickest way possible with the least amount of effort. This all changed for me when Deller showed me a lab write-up I turned in for a chemistry experiment that we did. He opened it, looked me in the eyes, and said, "You can do better than this. You should be leading this class with the highest grade." I was stunned. I have no clue what possessed him to say this or what he saw in me that made him believe that about me. No one ever accused me of being smart. However, it really hit me, and after that, everything began to change, and so far, everything has worked out well. That was just a few. This is only 3 pages out of 30 pages that I gave to the board of what kids said about Brian. So it is my pleasure to present Brian and Elsie Allen High School with a check for $5,000. So Brian.
Say a few words? Oh, very few words.
Is there a chance that a teacher would want to say a few words, Brian? Come on.
So I was extremely vetted for this, so we can know that I deserved it. It's hard hearing those things. I don't really imagine that I do that, and it's pretty remarkable when you see that in writing that these students took time to say that about me, and I'm infinitely flattered that there are students who think that way, and I take a deep honor in being an educator, and I think it's, this was not my first idea. I was going to teach until I could find a real job, and still looking. No, and it turned out to suit me very well, and I feel very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to influence many students in very positive ways, and hopefully some of my colleagues in very positive ways. And the Carlson Family Foundation is, it's remarkable. I mean, the other people who are at this dinner and the stories and the things that they're doing and the community they're building, I mean, it's definitely more than just handing out money, which is great, it's wonderful. But they're putting together professional development trainings down in Irvine, and they're trying to build capacity to help teachers in their first 5 years succeed. I mean, we know that's where we have the turnover. So it's a tremendous honor to have this at school. I'm going to get $5,000 worth of lotto tickets because I want to give back to education. I do have some good plans for it, and hopefully I can take some teachers to a conference and do some professional development with this. So what do I do? Who do I give this check to?
Well, why don't you
Thank you very much.
Here so we can take a picture. So, wait, Brian. And then Mary Gill, come down and take a picture with him too, please. So, and then Brian, anybody else you'd like to have come down and take a picture?
My wife?
Yes, so come down, please.
And while they're doing that, a selfie, no less. Good. While they're doing that, I just want to let everybody know that I found two things that I found are really interesting about this. Number one, this is only the second teacher from Sonoma County since 2002, and the only one ever from our district. So that's pretty cool. And the second thing is that Jim Spratling, who was the student who nominated him, was a class of 1998 student. One of the things I remember from my mom is that, teaching is a profession where you don't get to know the next day that you had an impact. Sometimes it's a long time. And here's a student from 1998 who ends up with a master's degree in school counseling and is now a school counselor. So pretty cool, Brian. Pretty cool.
Okay, so Beth's going to take a picture of you right there. Beth's right there. Yeah, I know. Duck, Lauren, duck. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to item C8. This is public comments on non-agenda items. I have two blue cards. This is an opportunity for any member of the public who would like to speak with us to do so for up to 3 minutes on an item that is not on the agenda. If you have something that is on an agenda item, there are blue cards available for that, and we'd be glad to hear from you at that time. And as we've always admonished, if it's a comment about an employee matter, please refer to our complaint procedure and the board policy 9323, and we'll start with Mr. Dwayne DeWitt. Thank you. And then I will follow by April Casaroti.
Hello, my name is Dwayne DeWitt. I'm from Roseland and Santa Rosa City Schools, and I wanted to thank you for what you do. I saw here that 3 of you folks will be running for re-election again, and I'm glad of that. I hope you'll keep it up, and no matter how districts may shape up. And what I had come to talk with you about went kind of along with what just happened here. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was a kid here that wasn't getting it done. I was pretty much just out having fun in high school. And I'm a first-generation high school guy. And basically, I went on later in life to go back to school because of people I knew at Santa Rosa High School. They were World War II veterans. Bill Mitchell, he'd been to Iwo Jima, and he still teaches at 92 years old at the junior college. Wow. Then Gene DeSoto, D-Day guy, and Emmett O'Neill, a Navy guy. And so the thing was, unless somebody shows you you have potential, it may not happen. So I brought you a book today because what I became is an ACE guy. You know what ACE is? It's authentic community engagement. And I saw some of you folks are interested in that. And that term actually comes from the United States Environmental Protection Agency in the Brownfields Division, dealing with contaminated properties. Where I'm from in Roseland, we got some of the biggest brownfields you could imagine. So we also have some nature along Roseland Creek. And I'd like to propose to you folks that here in the school district, besides taking Roseland into your school district also, but also doing something called creekscaping for kids. And a UC Berkeley graduate student did a study for the city about a dozen years ago on Strawberry Creek at their elementary school and talked about how you could use schools next to creeks to train people early on to appreciate the good things in life, which to me are nature and a neighborhood. We have an oak woodland over in Roseland, and we call it the Roseland Neighborhood. And this book I brought down here is called The Last Child in the Woods. And it points out that we have a nature deficit disorder in the children of our nation now because they're not seeing nature much. But you could use elementary schools and high schools together with the teachers and the older people at the high schools working with the young people at the elementary schools next to creeks and do creekscaping for kids and get those youngsters involved with biology, environmental sciences, and effective teaching, which that man just got that award from or for. So you can be at the forefront of this. The city's got the plans. I want Roseland in the school district here in the city. And thank you for going with district elections. It'll make a better world, I believe. So once again, if you need an ACE specialist, I'll come help you. Thanks.
Thank you, Dwayne. April? Oh, there you are, up at the top. Hang on a second, we're going to get your microphone going. Good. Yes.
Good evening. I'm April Casarati, and I teach at Elsie Allen High School. Good job, Brian Deller. Congratulations to you again. I've been teaching physical education at Elsie Allen for 7 years now, and I just have a few concerns that I'd like to bring to your attention. Since my employment, the heat in the gym has never worked properly. My coworker and department chair has been teaching for 20 plus years at Elsie Allen and has shared with me that this has been an ongoing issue. This last December, our PE department filed a grievance and Williams Act complaint due to the ongoing heat issue, the heat issues that we've been experiencing. In January, we returned to school following our winter break, and a thermostat was installed in the gym. I am told that the thermostat was installed by Robert's Mechanic, and we are thrilled not only to have a thermostat now that we can control, but that the heating issue has been resolved, which keeps it healthy and comfortable working environment for our staff and our students. In recent years, when the heat has been operable, the temperature was always controlled by the district office and was set at a very high, uncomfortable temperature, which was not only unhealthy, but also not very cost effective. So as of this week, I was told that after almost 2 decades of finally coming to a resolution with the thermostat and us everybody being happy and healthy and all that, Robert's Mechanic will not be contracted through Santa Rosa City Schools. That's what I was told this week. So from what I understand, that this heat issue is has been district-wide for some time across the board. And I'm just very hopeful that the district continues to find ways to better serve our students, our staff, and our community for this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, April. Anyone else? Those are the only two blood cards I have. Okay, we'll move on to reports. Santa Rosa Teachers Association, Will.
Right.
Thank you. Approval of personnel transactions. Do we have any? No. I don't remember. We're on E2.
D2, right?
That's on D2. I apologize. See, this is the problem when you haven't done this in a while. We'll go to the superintendent's report, D3. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I wanted to let everyone know that we were selected by, I shouldn't have put a cough drop in my mouth, the North Bay Fire Relief Fund, with over 40,000 donors to this fund. The Santa Rosa City Schools was awarded a $300,000 grant to begin our integrated wellness center to serve students and their families who've been affected by the fire. So we were very pleased to be able to receive this grant. Our initial proposal is for $1.8 million, so we do need to find some other funding, but we are very pleased and very thankful for this initial funding from the North Bay Fire Relief Fund, and particularly all of the donators who gave to this fund to help our fire victims. I'd like to also report that the District Advisory Committee has had its third meeting, and that I am so happy to see so many parents attend representing their school sites along with their principals. I want to thank the principals for also attending. Just as a reminder, the District Advisory Committee is made up of 3 parents from each school site, your ELAC president, your parent association president, and then 1 other parent of choice. And so if I have any parents out there that are not sure who's attending for your school, please be sure to ask, because I do love having that representation and hearing from parents about issues around the district, what we're maybe doing right, maybe what we're not doing, we need to improve on. Which brings me to the LCAP survey. The LCAP survey will become live for people to comment to February 13th through the 28th. We're using the same format that we did last year called Thought Exchange, and so you'll be receiving emails not only from your site but also from the district. The 3 questions that are asked are open-ended questions. What are concerns you have about your school? What do you appreciate about your school? And what are some things that you would like to say about your school for this year? So please be on the lookout for that survey. The Budget Advisory Committee has also been meeting. I just wanted to announce there's a lot of things on the website, but they did ask to have another meeting on January 30th, and so I wanted to make that announcement that there will be another meeting that wasn't on the original calendared schedule for January 30th. And finally, the Labor Management Collaborative met for the first time in about 6 months yesterday. And I want to thank those members who attended the collaborative and appreciate the work that we did yesterday and the work that will be coming forward. For CSCA, the representatives are Tammy Alfonso, Linda Zavala, Sandy Garcia, Renee Clark, and Bob Norton. For SRTA, it's Will Lyon, Tawny Johnson, Margie Brady-Long, Catherine Howell, and Tara Lyon. And for management, it's Aida Diaz, Tim Zolinardo, Steve Mazzara, Jason Lee, and myself. So thank you to the group for attending yesterday, and I look forward to the work that we're going to do together ahead of us.
Great, thank you. There will be no board president report, since we don't have a board president here. Board member reports. Director Sheffield.
Yes, I received an appointment from Superintendent Harrington at SCO to serve on the County Committee on School District Organization, and I just want to thank the board and the superintendent for the encouragement and support to serve. This is a 4-year term, and I'll be representing the 3rd Supervisorial District, and first meeting will be January 29th. I do look forward to serving on this and reporting back to the board. Thank you.
Along with Director Fong, I got to attend the MLK presentations at Maria Carrillo High School and was very moved by the passion and forthrightness that the students spoke from and danced and sang, but they gave voice to their own and others' experiences of social injustice, and under the prompt of our beloved community, or giving strength to our beloved community, came out not only with expressions of really important messages, but also often gave a positive twist that was really moving. So kudos to Ms. Manzel, who puts in a lot of work to make that happen, and the school and everybody involved. And I think I saw Varnica here somewhere, so hopefully we'll hear from her too. I also attended the Maria Carrillo Crab Feed, where they had the goal of replacing $17,000 worth of equipment that was lost in the wildfires, as well as just an overdue purchase of a wrestling mat. It was a great event, and I'm sure they made good headway in reaching their goal. And then this weekend, I'll be at the Folsom Jazz Festival, where the Carrillo Jazz Band, Jazz Choir, and Songbirds will be competing. It's a festival that brings competitors from throughout the Western United States. That's very high level of performance, and our students often do a very good showing and sometimes get some awards. So we're looking forward to a great day at Folsom.
No report tonight.
Thank you. Very good. We'll move on. Do you have a CSBA report?
With regard to CSBA, they'll have a board of directors meeting this weekend, and we're focusing in again on budget considerations.
Thank you. We'll move to item E, which is consent items. I need a motion on items E1 through 4 and 8 through 10.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Director Pugh, seconded by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Sheffield? Director Fong? Director Carl?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
We'll move to item E5. This is approval of contracts, and I have a blue card from Chris Ackerman. Chris, are you here? There we go.
Does this work? Yay! Okay. So my name is Chris Ackerman. I'm an English teacher over at Cook Middle School. And what I wanted to talk to you about was obviously the contracts. In particular, I want to make sure that you take into consideration each individual contract before deciding. In particular, I wanted to focus on the contracts related to professional development. My major concerns are that with our budget crisis and us trying to cut funding where we can, I'm concerned, and I want to make sure that the contracts we do for PD are valuable. So my first question is, yes, it's very obvious on the contract that you are connecting it to district goals, but my question for you is, how well does it meet those goals? How long-term will it meet those goals? My next concern is we have one of the contracts where two people, you're flying in from Minnesota, and I don't understand why we need the extra travel costs. Is it possible that there are two people in our local area who has the same expertise, and therefore we can save a lot of money by doing by hiring people who are actually in our area? My last concern is one of the contracts is for a single person to be fully in charge of organizing secondary ed math professional development starting on this Tuesday, January 30th, and going throughout the summer. And my concern with that is, why are we hiring one person to do this specific job? If we were doing professional development, in my opinion, correctly, we would have somebody in-house who would do the logistics of making professional development work. And we would also have a committee of teachers, of teacher assistants, the people who are actually receiving the professional development. And they would be deciding what workshops and stuff that we actually needed to take. This is done in many other nonprofit areas. Sonoma County Bar Association is one where my sister actually works, and it works really well in these organizations. It will save us a lot of money in the long term, so I would just ask that you take a moment and consider that and each individual contract before approving. Thank you.
Any staff comment? Okay. It is an action item E5. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Have a roll call vote then, please.
Director Pugh? Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Fong? Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye. It would be interesting to hear back from staff where we are on PD and have kind of an update on what the central staff thinking is on the long term. We've had a lot of discussions about how it works, and there's been a lot of feedback, which has been, I think, somewhat helpful. So on a long-term basis, where we're going, et cetera, it might be helpful to have that, not tonight, but in the future.
We will do a report on the January 30th professional development. Excuse me, specifically. I think that from what I heard from Ms. Ackerman, which I thank you for your comments, we need to do a better job of communicating actually what has happened in order to get to these contracts. Yeah. One of the things that we've looked at, and you'll see some changes in the actual board reports, is that the format has changed to talk about considerations. And I want it to be very explicit about what the considerations were in order to pick whether it's a contract, whether it's, may not have to do anything with the contract. But what was the process we looked at? What were things that we considered? One of the examples I talked to about cabinet in terms of, and the directors and coordinators about considerations that are denoting, did we consult with CSEA and SRTA? That should be noted in there. Did we look at other groups that we talked with? Did the district advisory have a comment or say as we considered a decision that being made? So we appreciate your comments, and we know now that we need to do a better job so that you will know, based on your comments, that we did do a lot of the things that you talked about. So but we need to be clear about it.
Thank you. We'll move to item E6. This is approval of the Enviroplex contract for Hidden Valley Elementary Portables. It's a fire recovery item, and we have a blue card from Nancy Lands.
Good evening.
Hi.
I'll try to do my best. I was doing the juggling parenting thing this evening as I wrote these notes. So I'm here tonight just as a parent at Hidden Valley regarding the portable buildings. And I know that there's a desperate need for space at our main campus due to the loss of our satellite school and the movement of those 80 students to our main campus. The fire and the destruction of the school is well known, but the impact on our school and our community may not be fully understood. The comments from Superintendent Kitamura on December 20th, which I was grateful to be able to watch on video, was a bit misleading. She implied that while 80 students made the move to Hidden Valley from the satellite school, we really only needed to make space for 40 students as there were 40 empty seats. There may have been 40 empty seats, but these were spread across almost 600 students and 27 classrooms. There were not nice, open, empty classrooms waiting to welcome these students. These students have been crammed into many usable spaces. Many of those empty seats, by the way, are from the 20 or so fifth graders and sixth graders that transfer to Shracks each year, decimating our fifth and sixth grade classes as parents seek what they think is a better opportunity for their children. That's 20% of our fifth and sixth grade classes that transfer. These 80 students have been warmly received by staff, parents, families, and everybody. One first grade class and one second grade class are now being held in what used to be open resource areas. They're blocked off by cubicle walls, but subject to lots of ambient noise from the surrounding classrooms and teacher workspaces that are running copiers and staff chats and paper cutting and things like that. One first grade class was absorbed into the room that was previously used by our counselor and other paraprofessionals. Not really a suitable classroom space, and it's always been left empty. It's never been considered for a space in the 7 years I've been at that school. Excuse me. A TK combo class is being held in what used to be our old hall, half of our old hall. It's a drafty, noisy, cold building with linoleum flooring. TK and K kids sitting on linoleum with area rugs. The other half of this cavernous room is now used for the Hidden Valley Satellite School after daycare program. So they're crammed in there as well. The kindergarten class from the satellite is crammed into a corner of the daycare building, 1/4 of our daycare building. with just half-sized bookcases as a separator. As soon as the kindergarten kids leave, the daycare kids are lined up and waiting to come in. That teacher has no storage. She has no private, quiet space for classroom prep. She has nothing. And all of those extra germs from all of those extra daycare kids parading through that kindergarten room as they share the carpet. And the janitor doesn't always vacuum. He doesn't always have the time because we're also down a janitor. Among all of this, I'm concerned. What we know about these buildings comes just from your board meetings. We've had no communications from our administrator or principal, no emails, no updates, no information, nothing. It's radio silence from that office. The word on the street is that these buildings will take up a large part of our playground. I'm estimating it's about 3,000 square feet, plus walkways and space between the buildings and offsets from the property line. Anyway, I'm also worried these buildings will become permanent and they will dramatically impact our campus. I urge you to quickly but cautiously consider this, the needs of our students, families, and the long-term needs of our school as you make this move. Thank you.
Thank you. E6 is an action item. Is there a motion?
So
I'll second.
Moved by Director Pugh, seconded by Director Anderson. And to be clear, this is approval for to piggyback for 3 portables. It was board approved item E16 on November 15th of 2017, and we approved TLCD as the architect for the project December 20th of 2017, saying that this would come back in January for final approval. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh,
aye.
Director Anderson,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Sheffield, Director Carl,
Aye. Move to item E7. This is approval of Montgomery High School classroom proposal. I asked that this be pulled. I had a couple of questions. Did we receive any other proposals other than from TLCD on this?
No, we took TLCD out of our architectural pool that was approved in the fall of 2016.
Right.
And they had the availability to do the project, so we moved forward with them.
Very good local firm. Can you tell me, when I look at the numbers on this, in the end, in terms of when this could actually occur, we're up in the range of around 18 million. I did read that the governor is real interested in school bond stuff. Maybe that'll have some impact. How does this fit in our overall budget package, and what's the likelihood that we are going to be able to stay on track and in fact build this in that time frame that's indicated? And I ask that question in this context so that you understand where that's coming from. If it's high, I'm 100% behind this. If it's 80%, I'm probably behind it. If we're hoping for things down the line and we hope it's going to get better, then it becomes a question of how much money do we spend in the planning aspects to get to a point where we say, yes, we're absolutely going to, or no, it's not.
To try to answer your question, the team is comfortable with the $18 million dollar amount. Since we're in the conceptual stage, keep in mind, once we get further along, we will do a cost estimate with, I don't want to say true numbers, but actual numbers at that time. We could, depending on where the numbers come in due to finishes and what we direct to be done with the architect, could be value engineered down. There is a possibility, like I said, we believe we're in the ballpark. It could fluctuate up or down, but not drastically. But we can't control what the industry is going to do out there. As far as your timeline question, we do believe we can meet the timelines that have been presented.
Okay, I don't mean to suggest that anybody tonight ought to say this is the number and we're there. I know you guys aren't that, I wouldn't ask for that from you, because I don't, the history in the last couple of years and what's occurred, and obviously construction now in this community sub October 8th is not anything anybody can particularly well predict. I just want to be sure that when we're spending this sum of money And admittedly, it's a contract that takes us all the way through the end, so it's not like we're spending this on an upfront basis. That we still believe strongly that this is a viable project, that it's likely that, let's say it came in at 18 million, that's squarely within what our expectations would be. That's a significant need at Montgomery that we've identified, and that's a project that, from a staff perspective, is on target.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
And also just, this will be brought back to the board for approval after.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah, design documents are done and before bidding.
Clearly.
And this building also has been long time vetted through the whole process of the bond, imagination and consultation with the sites and all of that. So I'm vitally interested in this because I think for me to think about this, it's kind of like I'm going to cry, because the very first thing that I was assigned when I was principal was, okay, imagine what Montgomery's going to look like in the next 10 years. And it's been about, what, 15 or so, 16, 17? And that was one of the things, that new classroom building, replacing the portables that have been there for temporary purposes. So I want to make sure that, and I'm asking the people who are already doing this, but who will you be consulting in terms of how you create spaces for learning, for teaching and for learning, and what kinds of spaces are there, those, and how will you figure that out?
So going back to, we're in conceptual concept right now. Right now, it's just general classrooms with no specialties, but we are working with the site administration, and if this is approved tonight, we'll roll up our sleeves and I'll be able to give you more detail later. But right now, it's roughly just a 22,000 square foot building that will accommodate classroom space. We'll get down to whether that's, science rooms or what those rooms will equate to. We haven't got that far with site staff yet.
So down to the nitty-gritty later, is that what you're saying?
Yes, I could just tell you it rounds out to roughly about 16. I don't want to give you a number of classrooms because it's going to depend on the needs, but it is a 22,000 square foot building. Rick might be able to add some more.
We have been in contact with site administration and have received correspondence from teachers as well interested in this. As we go back through this process, we'll coordinate through the site administration with staff at that site, as well as community involvement when it is necessary, to determine the exact layout, as Mike was saying, of classroom layouts and the use moving forward.
So I could share some cautionary tales with you, but I will not. But I also know that if we're thinking about education in the 21st century, now that we're in 2018, and we know that teaching and learning is different from the 1930s or 40s or 50s when buildings were built, how do we assure that our school buildings enhance teaching and learning and collaboration and kids as doers? And so I'll be looking for that too. Thank you.
It was also that all of those factors were taken into consideration as the facilities master plan was built. Learning, maker spaces, collaborative spaces, opened up spaces. So it's within the document. So we really want to hear from the school community about what their needs are and take it from there once we get past the hurdles.
It's an action item. Looking for a motion.
Move item E7.
Second.
Moved by Director Pugh, seconded by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh? Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will move on to items F, discussion and action items. Start with item F1, which is a public hearing regarding by trustee area election system. And I think we have an initial comment from our considered attorney.
Is this on? I can't tell.
It is.
All right, there we go.
We're going to let you move it up, though.
All right, there we go. All right, good. All right, so just sort of a recap of where we are. We've had a number of public hearings as well as community meetings, which have all been published, and we've had community participation. Initially, today was to be the day where the board was going to take a final vote and choose a map, but based on feedback at the public hearings, community meetings, there has been a decision by the board to consider additional potential maps to add to the 3 that are out there right now. And so as a result, the timeline will be extended, which the process allows for. It's meant to be an iterative process to receive feedback from the community and then for the board to react and, change its course and be able to add 2 additional maps. And that's what we have that's taking place now. And so what the community will see is that the process will be extended from today being the final meeting, and there will be another subsequent public hearing on February 14th, at which point there will be some additional maps in addition to the 3 that are available for viewing right now on the district's website. So there will be a follow-up public hearing on the 14th, and then on the February 28th, that is what we have scheduled for the final decision for the board to make a decision on which map it will select based off of the existing 3 maps and the maps that will be forthcoming. The board asks that the community stay tuned in the next coming weeks for the maps, additional new maps that will be presented. They will be published on the district's website. And then as with the existing 3 maps, community comments can be submitted electronically as well as at the February 14th and February 28th public hearings as well. So.
Thank you, Milton. I'll open the public hearing. We have any members of the public that would like to address us on this issue? This will not be the last time. February 14th, we will have that, and frankly, on the 28th, when it is an action item, members of the public will obviously be able to address the board at that time as well. And that was a nice long stall to see if I could get anybody to stand up and walk towards a microphone, and it's clear that that wasn't going to happen, so we will close the public hearing. Thank you very much. Move to item F2, which is an action item. This is approval of a resolution recognizing February as National African American History Month. Is there a staff person? Thank you.
Good evening, Vice President Carl. Prior to you taking action, we do have Brigitte Mansell and Varnica from Maria Correa High School who is going to be giving her speech that she gave at the Martin Luther King Speech Day. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Mansell.
I'm going to introduce
Madam Mayor, you can hit that. If anybody didn't know that our teacher was Madam Mayor.
Varnica, come on down. Where are you?
She's not hearing me.
You're going to come down here. They want you down here, even though she wanted to face everybody rather than just be with you because she feels Dr. King would want everyone to see her face. But there's kind of a screen up there. She'll do this for you. So thank you for letting some student voice come in tonight. There's so much business all the time, but what a pleasure it is to introduce a student that decided to interact with the theme this year, which I know a couple of board members were able to attend, and I really appreciate your visibility and your willingness to come over to CREO. The theme this year was Get Up, Stand Up, Building the Beloved Community. And I think that more than ever, Santa Rosa City Schools gets that we need to get up and we need to stand up and rebuild, build, and create not only a stronger school district, but also pay attention to our needs across the board in terms of livability and housing. And anyway, it's a really exciting theme for students to interact with. So this year's Dr. King Assembly was centered on that rebuilding the beloved community. So I'm going to introduce Varnica, who is a student at Maria Correa. She is our 9th grade winner. She did win the Sonoma County competition, and she did speak at the big countywide celebration. And her theme, I think, is obviously the one I mentioned, but she also extends what I think Dr. King really appreciates, and Black History Month certainly will reflect, which is we really need to open up and listen rather than respond. And I think that's a really key issue for all of us as we move into this national landscape of response rather than listening. So I'm very pleased to introduce Varnica, and I'd love for you to say your last name, so you say it exactly as it's supposed to be.
Varnika Kailash.
There you go. So here she is.
Thank you. Mexican artist Frida Kahlo once said, "Find a lover who looks at you like maybe you are magic." Though intended romantically, the truth is we are all magical because of our inevitable individuality. We should therefore be revered as such, simply for being our unique, creative selves. Words can be so full or so empty. By succumbing to several stereotypes regarding different world populations, we allow our knowledge to become 50 feet wide, but just 1 inch deep. Do we truly have an in-depth understanding of our world if all we know about it are through short snippets of information that generalize entire communities to just one perception? I firmly believe there is an art behind the knowledge of knowing when to stop talking and start listening. An art that is arguably more valuable than knowing what to say, especially in this day and age. Nowadays, we hear to respond, not to understand. After my family's house burnt down in the Tubbs fires, we moved to an apartment complex. Every day, I trudge up these narrow steps to the second floor, and I'm welcomed by the image of the word home embossed on the doormat. And every single day, I'm reminded that, yes, I have lost a house. But does that mean that I've lost home? Home is where the heart is, and our hearts lie within our surrounding people. This is why it is vital to understand everybody's stories and all of each other's chapters, not just the titles. Then only can we effectively and comfortably coexist on this vast blue planet we are to call home. So what exactly does a beloved community entail? A community and livelihood where everybody is respected and validated, where everybody can be who they want to be, which is who they ought to be. Martin Luther King once declared, "The beloved community is formed not by the eradication of difference, but by its affirmation." And if we follow this ideology, then I can see you and you can see me, with no hierarchy formed because of our differences, but simply letting them be. Go back to where you came from and stay there. Last year, at a large shopping mall, a teenage boy took one look at my skin tone, just one cursory glance, and immediately thought, go back to where you came from and stay there. All I could decipher from his statement was that I was part of something different, something less than. And when I looked him in the eyes, I didn't see hatred. I saw misunderstanding. Because ignorance is not bliss. It's oblivion. And what's worse is when we do nothing to rectify this oblivion, but deliberately closing ourselves off from learning more about different populations. I am not sharing my story because it's unique, but because it's not. We share a stigma that beauty is just one possible outcome, and we all need to conform to accommodate that standard. Well, 64% of Allure Beauty respondents polled in 2017 agreed that mixed race is the epitome of beauty. That is a far cry from 1991, when most respondents selected blonde-haired, blue-eyed Christy Brinkley as the ideal version of beauty. Why is there such a strong desire for people, especially women, to look like somebody else, to appear a certain way, because that is what's in? Every time I pass a mirror, I constantly lock my own eyes and ask myself, am I pretty enough? Pretty enough for what? Why should there only be one rigid standard of what beauty is? Rather than striving for one depiction of beauty, we must realize that it's in us. We're already there. The willingness to accept other people for who they are stems from the level of our own inner peace. So what if we all shared the same religion and didn't see things like color or race? There would be no diversity, which is the entire beauty behind the beloved community. Upon hearing about the state of our house, our friends from throughout the state took it upon themselves to share our burden and delivered us with supplies that we needed in order to carry on. One group decided to be in charge of clothing, the other in charge of kitchenware. And then they all proceeded to drive up here to Santa Rosa so we could carry on and settle down. Such acts don't just come from selflessness. They're fueled by love. That is what made these people want to help us out, as opposed to feeling obligated to doing so. The thing is, there is no tangible path to achieve love. Love is the path. So, if I were asked what it takes to build a beloved community, I would say it's about building love. Love. This means recognizing that our own thoughts and perceptions might not be that of the person sitting across from us. That just because we think it's so doesn't mean it is so. We have to realize that every single person on this planet is linked by this one thing. The fact that we are all different from one another. Our uniqueness is the one common thread among us, what weaves the fabric of this society together. Over time, I realized that I may be different, but that's why I'm loved by my friends, by my family, and that remains the one thing I need to realize: the beauty in diversity. Our faults and virtues, which are arguably the same thing, can be perceived as less than because they are unfamiliar. But they are not less than. They simply are. As humans, we are incredibly alike, and at the same time, totally different. And when we learn to explore difference in a better way, as a thing of beauty, that, my friends, is when we truly build community. What if last year that boy had realized that solidarity doesn't come from everybody being alike, but from everybody being different? What if the reputation of a single population didn't lie in the hands of just a few reckless words. What if? Frida Kahlo once said, "Find a lover who looks at you like maybe you are magic." Magic. When I ask you all to picture this word, what images are your minds conjuring? Witchcraft and wizardry, sacred incantations, Harry Potter, magic. It isn't some far-fetched idyllic spirit or idea. It isn't something to be obtained. What makes magic sacred is that it is in the ordinary, in every single one of us. Our doses of magic are what results in a world population of 7 billion people, all of whom have nothing in common with one another. Magic. Magic is extraordinary because it's in the ordinary. When we realize that, that is when we build community. So now, when I ask you all to picture the word magic again, consider, now what do you picture? Thank you.
Really nice. And it's one of the best parts of sitting in the school board over the years is watching students, whether they bring in the robots that they take somewhere or some other thing that they've been doing in relation to the curriculum and what they've been doing in their schools. And it's just so nice to have that appear here. And as a speech and drama minor who participated in intercollegiate speech and debate, you would be a tough act to follow. Congratulations, very nice. We have item F2 as an action item.
I move action, or F2.
I'll second.
Motion by Director Anderson, seconded by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye. We'll move on to item F3. This is an action item for approval of a resolution calling for full and fair funding of California's public schools.
So I would like to ask Director Pugh, would you please speak on behalf of this resolution?
School districts in the state of California have been requested to consider approving this resolution calling for full and fair funding of public education in California. Specifically, there's two main parts to the resolution. One is that we would like to be funded at the national average, which would be about $2,000 more per student in our district. And we are asking that we be ranked average in the top 10 states nationally. Both these have deadline dates and times, and you might wonder why that is. But for us to be among the top average of the top 10, that would be over $7,000 more per student each year. What you also don't know is, or may not know, is the California School Board Association is putting together a grassroots committee to look at placing on the ballot a resolution in the future that would address these concerns. So this is just one step towards that goal. And I would encourage its support.
Thank you. Any comments, or this is an action item?
Move to approve the resolution.
Motion by Director Sheffield, seconded by Director Fong. Is there any other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Fong? Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye. Action item F4 is an approval of a resolution recognizing February 5th through 9th as Week of the School Counselor. Comes at an appropriate time, too, does it not?
Vice President Carl, board members, Superintendent Kitamura. National School Counseling Week is sponsored by the American School Counselors Association, celebrated this year from February 5th to February 9th, and it focuses public attention on the unique contribution of professional school counselors within U.S. school systems. Tonight, we want to recognize the importance of school counselors in our work here at Santa Rosa City Schools, and during the week of February 5, we will celebrate their contribution to impact student lives. Unfortunately, tonight, student board member Luke Mott was going to do a little presentation or a little explanation of his impact with school counselors. However, in addition, and so maybe we reserve the right for Luke to have that comment in a future meeting. However, I have a brief presentation that will.
Problems? I like my counselor because they're always someone that you can talk to about anything. They always have your best interest in mind, and they can help you through about anything.
I love my counselor because she comes in our classroom and does meetings with us. And I like it, and we have to do apologies and say words like, I feel happy when you do like happy stuff and make my heart happy.
Pues mi experiencia con mi consejero no ha sido muy buena porque en realidad no he hablado con él nunca me ha hablado para hablar sobre asuntos de mis clases. No.
Miss McKendy, I talk about with my patients too.
Nice. So the counselors, you can always come and see them. If you're happy, you're sad, you can see them before school, after school, lunch, brunch, or you can come in like between classes and see them like during the class, or like anytime you can really want to see them, you can see them. And if you don't,
she understands me. She's there for me. She'll give me good advice.
Hello, and I love my counselor because she's really nice. She listens to us, and she talks to us nicely. She cares about our feelings, and she's just a nice counselor to have. I like being with my counselor because it's fun to be with her.
I've always had a really good experience with counselors. They've always told me to reach for my goals because I wanted to become a nurse. Yeah.
My counselor is very patient and understanding.
I use my proven to Miss McKenzie.
I like to see my counselor, Miss Zapata, because when I see no one else to go to, like I go to her, and she gives me advice all the time, and she tells me I don't have to take it, but I really do take it into consideration, and the outcome is really good. Like I get good results from her advice, and I like my counselor for that reason.
I want to thank our new counselor on special assignment, Heidi Perziti. Thank you, Heidi, for assisting with that. We know in our schools that counselors support students, guide their future, help them stay on goals, decide on goals and stay on track. They talk them down from difficult ledges. They help them manage a crisis, advise their parents on being parents, remove barriers, light and tender their spark, create pros and cons, good, bad choice scenarios, resolve conflicts, teach the language of social emotional learning, recommend better choices next time, refer to more necessary services, ensure that their classroom needs are being met, assist teachers with classroom decisions, monitor for declines or improvements of student achievement, catch students when they are doing amazing, provide clinics and a supportive ear. In addition, we want to just say that we are very proud of our counselors, all our counselors, our secondary counselors, our elementary counselors, our college and career counselors, and our SOL counselors have all helped build the support systems that we are moving in Santa Rosa City Schools to improve student achievement and student wellness. We thank the board for their recognition of those needs and their support through funding. And Vice President Carl, board members, Superintendent Kitamura, please let us recognize this hard work and dedication for recognizing February 5th through the 9th, 2018 as the Week of School Counselors.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Any comments or questions? If not, there is an action item here.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Director Fong, seconded by Director Anderson. Roll call vote, please.
Director Fong? Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye. Thank you. We'll move to item F5, and this is approval of a resolution declaring February as the Career Technical Education Month in Santa Rosa City Schools.
Before we turn this over to Director Bucatini and Dr. Guzman, I would like to be sure that the board uses the techniques we learned on the video, which was this and this. Okay? So
Yes, I get that. That's
I'll
why
be
that
watching
was-
for frustration and patience, okay?
I got it.
Good evening, President Carl, members of the board, and Superintendent Kimura. I am very pleased to introduce a couple of our CTE teachers as well as our students that are here tonight to assist us in better understanding their programs and how they really truly benefit students. And so before we move to approve the resolution declaring February as Career Technical Education Month, I'd like to invite down Maureen McCabe, who is an instructor at Pioneer High School. She teaches in the Culinary Arts program. And she has a student with her here tonight who she's going to introduce. And I'd also like to invite down Jordan Albiani, who is also here with one of her agriculture program students. So please join us. Yes.
While they're getting set up, I can't help but notice the FFA jacket, and it does warm my heart.
Yep.
So.
Sure. Hello, I'm Jordan Albiani. I'm the new ag teacher at Santa Rosa High School, and we have Karen Lopez here tonight to talk to you about what we do with our ag program and her experiences so far.
Good evening. My name is Karen Lopez. I am currently a senior at Santa Rosa High School and am serving as this year's Santa Rosa FFA Chapter Secretary. The Future Farmers of America program is a youth organization that focuses on providing students with a hands-on learning experience that provides opportunities for leadership development, personal growth, and career success. Through agriculture education, students participate in classroom instruction, supervised agricultural experiences, and leadership development instruction. Through the FFA organization, all while learning about the global food and fiber industry. I have been a member of this organization since my freshman year, and each year I have become more and more involved in this organization. I started in the organization through an agricultural biology course and later was introduced to the leadership aspect as years progressed. I began showing lambs and goats as part of my supervised agricultural experience, as well as familiarizing and competing in sectional speaking competitions and nationwide conferences. By competing in contests such as opening and closing, cooperative marketing, job interview, prepared speaking, and agri-science, my skills of public speaking and knowledge have expanded immensely. I have also been able to lead the organization in community service activities by being head of committee for our annual pumpkin patch held in October in our school farm, as well as our annual egg hunt in the spring. Our program boasts a school farm on Alba Lane where we normally keep our sheep and goat projects in addition to growing 6 acres of Chardonnay grapes, house a 1.5 acre of garden, fruit trees, and hop production. The farm was affected by the fires in October, but has provided us with new information and learning opportunities. The students are hoping to be able to return to the farm facilities soon, so as to repair the damage done in time to continue these amazing operations housed on our property. In addition, we boast on an on-campus greenhouse and swine barn, where again, students are able to apply skills learned in class to their projects. Agriculture education is the most comprehensive CTE program available to students today. I wouldn't be where I am today without it. I will be attending Montana State, UC Davis, or Fresno State next fall, majoring in genetics and minoring in agricultural biology. Because of the exposure I have had with this program and opportunities unlimited to me, I have been able to branch out in the world. And for that, I am thankful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maureen McCabe. I am one of 2 culinary arts teachers at Pioneer High School. We have a very large program, I believe the largest culinary arts program in the district. I have brought Nayeli Orozco with me today. Nayeli is a sophomore, and she participated in our Skills USA program. So it's our 2nd year doing that.
Hi, my name is Nayeli Orozco, and Hi, my name is Nayeli Orozco, and I'm a sophomore at Pioneer High School. I've been taking culinary arts for almost 2 years now, and I've been doing cooking and baking since I've been little. Culinary at Pioneer has taught me many new techniques that I had never even heard of. Last year, I joined this program called Skills USA. I participated in regionals, and luckily I made state. At state, I placed top 10, but that wasn't enough to let me go to nationals. Culinary at Pioneer has taught me many things that have changed my life and that have changed my perspective as a student and as a human. From culinary, I have taken away perseverance, dedication, self-discipline, and most important, independence. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? I really appreciate you guys coming down here. CTE has been a very important goal of the board in this district for a long period of time. And sometimes people don't realize that it's just getting the value of the class and what you learn in the class is not everything about CTE. And both of you address that really well in terms of the impact at a much broader level and where that is likely to take you. Sometimes people think CTE is just this, when in fact it's this. And I think both of you guys showed that very much tonight, and we much appreciate that. Thank you. We have an action item.
I move this forward.
I'll second.
Moved by Director Fong, seconded by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please.
Director Fong? Aye. Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Pugh? Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye. That concludes our 4 resolutions. I want to thank staff. That is a much more meaningful way of dealing with those resolutions. We don't take them lightly. They're important to us.
They are.
But when you can get a little presentation that brings that even more home, that's very helpful and very much appreciated.
Thank you.
We'll move to item F6. This is approval of mathematics textbooks for all of Santa Rosa secondary schools.
Good evening, Vice President Carl, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board. Tonight we are asking for approval for the mathematics textbooks for the integrated math model. With that, I turn it back over to the board.
Okay. Any questions? If not, absolutely. Director Fong.
I just want to thank you and thank the math teachers and the directors for the work that they've done in math, because this has been a long, long conversation, really difficult, many viewpoints, and everyone's still trying to do the very right thing for kids' mathematical education from elementary school up through 12th grade. So congratulations.
I'd like to give some credit, if I may, where credit is due. This is Director Ronnie Goyle. She's new to curriculum instruction as of November, coming to us from Fullerton, where she was a principal. She has, in her short amount of time here with us, has really been able to collaboratively work with both math and science to make sure that all voices are heard and that we are always putting students first. So I really want to give her some credit for this work tonight.
Very good. Thank you and welcome. It's a good start. And it's an action item.
Move to approve item F6.
Second.
Motion by Director Sheffield, seconded by Director Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Director Sheffield? Aye. Director Fong? Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Carl, I think you have a change, though.
I abstain.
Director Pugh abstains.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Very good.
Okay.
Motion carries. Thank you for all the hard work. Appreciate that very much. And obviously it is a lot of hard work when it can be that simple at the end. So we'll move to item F7. This is an action item, approval of resolution for statutory exemptions from fees. Andre?
Good evening, Andre Bell, Assistant Superintendent Business. What we have before you tonight is a resolution for developer fees for victims who lost their homes in the Tubbs fire. Basically, Education Code 17620 states that any additions that are made to a house or that are 500 feet or above, 500 square feet, excuse me, or above will be charged the entire 500. Will be charged the entire 500. This resolution before the board tonight is requesting that any homes that are rebuilt due to the fire, we will only charge developer fees for square footage exceeding 501. So 501 and above. And also in this resolution, the time frame for it is 36 months from approval.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? The only thing I'll say is that for clarity, if anybody is concerned about it, the board members that will be voting on this do not have any present plans to be expanding their home. So there is not an issue with respect to a need for an abstention. Beyond that, it is an action item. If there is a motion.
I'd like to move item F7.
Second.
Motion by Director Pugh, seconded by Director Fong. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh? Director Fong? Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye. And we'll stick with money and move on to item F8 and have a little discussion about the governor's proposed 18-19 budget.
Good evening once again, Board and Superintendent. Andre Bell is Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, and I also have Joel Dondas, the Executive Director of Fiscal Services. We wanted to give you an update on the governor's budget, proposed budget for education going into the year 18-19. So the agenda basically covers the state budget process, the proposals for the 2018-19 state education budget, how the proposal budget affects Santa Rosa City Schools, and updating the multi-year projections with 2018-19. And all of this are projections and are taken into account are based on 2017-18 P1 attendance reports. So first of all, the governor is required by state law to have a proposed budget by January 10th. And then we received an update from California School Services at a meeting in Sacramento last week. From there, the next steps are made revised, as they call it, and that is to change any revenues that occurred since January. And if everything goes well in the state, then the budget is approved on June 30. So what is new? The new gap funding proposal percentage is increased now. It was supposed to be completely closed in 2021, and the governor, this is his last budget, and so going forward, he decided that he would complete the gap funding proposal percentage next fiscal year. So we will be getting 100% of the LCFF funding. Also, he estimated going 100% going forward in 1920. Cost of living, which was really nice of the governor as well, increased to 2.51 and going to 18-19. Proposed modest funding for the special education increase in COLA is basically what the premise is of the cost of living, and also in going into 1920 also increased the projected over to 2.41 over the original proposed budgets in 18-19. going the right way, Andre. One-time discretionary funding. Now, this is where we received in the district over the years going at the budget. The governor gives us one-time discretionary funding that can only be used for one-time or should only be used for one-time only items. This year, he's proposing $295 per ADA for 18-19. And as I stated earlier, these funds really should be only used for one-time only expenditures and not ongoing expenses. What's not in the governor's education budget? It does not increase the LCF base grant funding to reach the fund level of the top 10 states. The growing local obligations that we have for CalSTRS and CalPERS is not increased in that budget. And the increase in the equalization of AB 602 base funding for special education is not also included in the budget. So we, as I said earlier, based our projections on the P1 data, and this is just a brief summary of the data in the district as we projected for as actual 16-17, 17-18, and as we project in 18-19, 19-20. The one thing you notice is that as these projections go, we're also in a decline in enrollment as we go forward. Funding on the budget will be based on a P2 report that we'll bring before the board going forward. One thing we really want to make sure is that the board approved a demographic study in December, and that will be brought to the board in February as an update on our enrollment and as well as enrollment and based upon the fire. And so we'll have updated enrollment and numbers projected there. How the proposed budget affects Santa Rosa, which is really where we want to go at this particular point. As we did the first interim prior to the first interim 17-18, where changes in revenue were down about $99,000 going forward. If we go into the proposal in 18-19, we have an increase of $1,400,000, almost $1,500,000, and then as we go into 19-20, since the gap is closed, that increase is $217,000 going forward. The way as you see here, we also have where we have the one-time proposed one-time funding of $4 million that we have in the budget. We had to change the multi-year projections, and I know that you've seen this several times in several reiterations, but we just want to make sure that we're clear that last year, 17-18, the district reduced its overall reductions were $4.56 million. When we first started with this fiscal year, we anticipated that we would be a reduction of $5 million and an additional $2 going in ongoing expenses into 19-20, which would have made it $7 million. Updating that after the STRA collective bargaining agreement, those numbers went up to like $7 million, and then it was going on to $14 million. With the governor's new budget proposals, that and where we increase offsetting funding going forward, so in 18-19 of the $1,000,003, that reduces the structured deficit to $6,237,000, and then going forward into 19-20, that is also reduces it to $6,551,000. So a total combined now is $12,789,000, which about a $2 million reduction of where we started at before. Questions?
Questions from the board? Thank you. It is interesting that we have, you have a blue card, Will, on this? Okay. That's fine. Thank you. I think it's interesting to note that in our information items, we have the January 11th letter from SCO with respect to our budget. And I think that's an important read for anybody that cares about our budget. One of the things that is in that is, I think, particularly critical is the ongoing caution with respect to ADA. I think you address that, and the chart indicates that we've got a projection from this year to next year of some decrease. It's not a very big decrease, though, and we're looming with an issue that we don't know anything about, which is who's going to actually show up in August of next year. So while there are aspects of this that are promising and give us some flexibility, the fact is that we passed a resolution earlier today that we're nowhere near fair funding in the state of California, and Director Pugh and Director Christoph are in the middle of those kinds of, or that kind of work at the state and the national level for that matter. But we also have a number of cautionary tales contained within that January 11th letter. Appreciate the good work on this, and it's an ongoing thing to discuss without question. I understand I've got a blue card. Will Lyon.
Oh, yeah. Hello, I'm Will Lyon. I'm the president of Santa Rosa Teachers Association. First, I want to mention that we have a new budget advisory committee to our district. It's getting rolling. We're working hard to make it collaborative and inclusive and transparent. It's the first time we've done it, so I think will be lessons learned along the way, but it is heads and tails better than what we have done in the past, and I want to commend Mr. Bell for his leadership in doing that. And we have at this point identified 29 possible things to cut. All of them hurt somebody, right? So it's going to be one of those, and I understand that it won't be a fun process and there's no way to make everybody happy. I wanted to bring it to the attention to the cabinet and to the board that one of the items that is on there as a possible cut is furlough day. And I think the intention was just to announce this is what it would cost to have a furlough day. The problem is that that is a mandatory subject of bargaining, and it would be illegal for them to recommend for you to have a furlough day and for you to vote yes on it. It absolutely has to go through the bargaining teams if that's what we wanted. And I'm sure you remember about 2 weeks ago, we already agreed on the number of days for next year. So I wanted to let you know that that's causing a lot of problems in our unit, because we're trying to honor the process, and we made a poll, hey, what do you like, what do you don't, so that we can come in and participate in the system. And we think ultimately that wouldn't make the cut anyway, but even if it did, and they brought it to you and you voted on it, it's illegal, right? It has to be bargained. So we have so many good things happening on that committee, and the potential is so strong that I'm going to respectfully request that we remove that item so that we remain in compliance with the ERA, and announce it to the CSEA members and the SRTA members so we can just get that piece of drama out of there and focus on what we can actually do. So I hope you'll consider doing that. I know that maybe isn't the intention of this, but I do want to let you know so many good things are happening. There's one red item that I hope I can get some help on before we bring it to the next committee or to the February 1 showcase. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board member questions or comments? It's a discussion item, so we aren't taking any action, obviously, tonight. Yes.
If I could just say one more thing. We have a budget a town hall meeting on February the 1st at Lewis campus, and I would like to let the public know that we will be discussing the budget and the possible budget solutions. So that's at 6 o'clock on February 1st at Lewis campus. Thank you.
Director Sheffield.
And just to add, because during my day job is I work for the state, so although there's a lot of good news in the proposed budget, as was indicated in the presentation, that this is the first step. We still have to go through revise and then the approval of the budget. But the sobering caution that Governor Brown gave when he introduced the budget was that he does believe that there is a looming recession. A team of economists that work for the state believe that there is a looming recession. So this is not an opportunity for us to wildly spend money that we don't even have. It is really an opportunity for us to prepare for what is coming down the road. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Let's move to item F9. This is an action item. This is a second reading and approval of revisions to Board Policy 5131 on conduct. Who's working on that? F9.
Vice President Carl, Board Member, Superintendent Kutamura, this is our second reading on the item. We have not had any changes or revisions to it, and so it stands as originally presented.
Thank you. Board member questions or comments? If not, an action item, so we need a motion.
I'd like to move item F9. I'll second.
Motion by Director Pugh, second by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh? Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Thank you. Move to item F10, and this also is a second reading and approval and this one is for Board Policy 5141.2, suicide prevention.
President Carl, Board Member, Superintendent Kitamura. Again, this is the second reading. There are no changes to the policy since the first reading, and our committee will be meeting to make ongoing changes to the development of the policy and bring anything forward.
No, thank you for your work on that. Any board member questions or comments? If not, an action item?
I'd like to move item F10.
I'll second.
Motion by Director Pugh, second by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh? Aye. Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Carl?
Aye. That concludes our meeting. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time on Valentine's Day.
You certainly got in the swing of things. You certainly got in the swing of things. You warmed up well.